uh, assembled guests and the participants, Honorable Vice Chancellor of MAKAUT, Professor Shoikat Moitro, our honored guests, Mr. James Liao, Social Innovation Entrepreneur, User Experience Specialist at Microsoft USA, Mr. Ashutosh Chatterjee, CEO of Caravel Labs. We have with us Mr. Pradeep Mukhopadhyay, ex-Managing Director of Weibull, who is currently a consultant in our university. We have with us my colleague, Professor Debashish De, Professor in the Department of Computer Science, Director at the School of Computational Sciences. And I am Indranil Mukherjee. I am in the School of Management Sciences of this university. So welcome to this evening discussion on design thinking and innovation. At the outset, let me thank all the honored guests who have assembled here in spite of their busy schedule to share their thoughts on this very, very interesting topic. And my thanks also to the Institutional Innovation Cell led by Professor Debashish De, who have taken pains to organize this webinar. My thanks to Mr. Pradeep Mukhopadhyay for setting up this evening program. And at the outset, may I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Shoikat Moitro, who has been at the forefront of all the creative activities, innovative activities, expansion activities, consolidation activities, several innovative teaching, learning activities of our university which have taken place over the last 5 years. Let me tell this to you, ladies and gentlemen, that when many of the students and teachers were completely thrown off balance due to the COVID-induced lockdown, our university was a step ahead because Sir had pioneered this online teaching learning mechanism and the infrastructure since 2017 when he took over the reins of our university. So we were a step ahead, and it's a matter of great pride that we were the first one to publish the results of the semester exams last year in 2020. And we have always had very little difficulty in getting adjusted to the new normal. And we at MAKAUT have organized several workshops, seminars, etc., to facilitate the functioning in this new normal. And not only this, people have been talking about mental health issues in this backdrop. And let me tell you that Professor Moitro pioneered a series of programs. Let me tell you, not a single program, but a series of programs on titled Sorrow, Joy, and Depression to address these health issues, where experts from the spiritual field, from the knowledge field, from the country, from abroad, they participated, and we, everyone in the student community, in the academic fraternity, in the entire ecosystem benefited greatly from this. So thank you, sir, for joining us in this program. And again, let me tell you that this is going to be a very, very interesting program. I'm sure that you will all enjoy it. And with these words and without losing any more time, let me request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Shoikat Moitro, to share his thoughts with us, sir.
Thank you, Professor Indranil Mukherjee, and all my colleagues who are present over here, Mr. Pradeep Mukhopadhyay, Professor Debashish De, and the experts of today's program, Mr. Ashutosh Chatterjee, Mr. James Liao. Welcome to our university through this virtual platform. Today's topic is very important, and it is, this somewhat close to my this own perceptions and idea, because I was planning to establish a center of design thinking a couple of years before the pandemic situation broke out in this entire world at our university system. And I personally that time used to take interest in design thinking. And in country like India, I believe that in country like India, countries where there are lots of scope for development, design thinking can play immense role, leveraging the innovative ideas of our young minds, of our innovative minds. Basically, the experts will elaborate it in a better manner, but so far I can recollect my own perceptions. A non-linear process consisting of 5 steps, and the basic, the first step for design thinking is empathize. And that is very important in our social context. We have to look in and around to understand the pain which is existing in the society, and understand the problems which is existing in society. And accordingly, we need to then define the problem, ideate this problem, then develop our own idea, then develop some prototype and test, and all these steps are connected. The non-linear steps are all connected. So basically, you see, in our countries, there are lots of scope of doing all this design thinking and innovation in the different spheres for improving our social systems, for improving our this comfortability in every sphere of lives, to eradicating the various problems which are existing for a long time. We need to change our perception, to look into our surroundings from a different this perspective, and that is very much required. So far, what we do basically, in our country, most of these researchers, they only follow the path shown by these developed countries or Western countries, and that's why most of this research outcome is not this accruing that much benefit which it is supposed to do for the growth and development of the society and this country. So in this context, this is of immense importance, and I believe that this discussion, many of our participants who are present over here, they will be benefited, and they will have a scope of changing their own perception, own idea, own understanding, and own this vision, so that everyone can be engaged for doing something which is good and great for the growth and development of the society of this country. And there are lots of these case studies which are available at this country. People are working, but that not in a structured manner, so in a integrated manner. I believe that today, from our Institute of Innovation Shell, this is just an initiation, and this of course that this activity will further crystallize, followed by growth and the development of a good clusters afterwards, so that we can have a good number of people with us who would be engaging in this short activity for this taking this country ahead. So with this, I would like to conclude my best wishes for grand success of today's program, and my sincerest congratulations to Mr. Pradip Mukhopadhyay, Professor Indoran Mukherjee, Professor Devashish Dey, and others from our Institute Innovation Cell who are organizing today's programs. And again, I would like to welcome and express my sincerest thanks to the resource persons who are present over here. My best wishes to the participants also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your insights with the gathering and with the participants over here. And let me hand back to Mr. Pradip Mukhopadhyay for his taking the program forward. Mr. Mukhopadhyay.
Before Pradip sir says, I want to show it to our Vice Chancellor sir that Leo is giving his lecture from lake. It's a natural lake, and he's giving the lecture from there. Yeah. So this is also innovative to me and is encouraging. So we can do it. So we can connect with the nature also. Thank you, Leo.
And I would like to give a supplement. Where I was taking part in 3 different programs in the last 1 hour, and most of the 2 programs I had to get connected on the road itself.
Yes.
In the busy roads, finding out the corners where noise is minimum. So I had to apply, this my innovation, how to take part in these programs, keeping this digital protocols and all these things without much noise and all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leo.
May I continue?
Yes, please.
First of all, good morning to Mr. James and Mr. Ashutosh, and good evening to the participants who have joined from this part of the country. I would like to introduce Mr. Ashutosh Chatterjee, who is known as Ashu. He holds bachelor degree from the Regional Engineering College of Rourkela and done his master degree from George Washington University, Washington, DC, both in computer science. He has begun his engineering career in Calcutta back in 1992 and working as a software engineer at CMC Limited. Since then, he has served in a variety of roles as a developer, architect, program manager, practice manager, and an agile and develop evangelist. He worked at Microsoft Corporation for nearly 14 years, where he was instrumental in building a global practice to drive innovation using custom software. In 2017,
Your voice is low, Father Sahib. Use the microphone near your face, this mouth.
is it okay? Am I audible?
Now it is okay.
Yes.
Now it is
Now it's
clear.
okay. Now it's okay.
In 2017, he received Microsoft's most prestigious and exclusive award, the Platinum Club Circle of Excellence, for his work. And in 2020, this quest led him together with 4 of his co-worker friends to establish Caravel Labs, a technology company serving social innovators around the world, where he was the instrumental, and he has been one of the founder and CEO. He has been a speaker at a number of international events, including the PMI Regional Conference in Kolkata in 2017 and 2020, and the Global Scrum Gathering in Shanghai in 2015, besides numerous other global conferences internal to Microsoft. He presently lives in Washington, DC, USA. To talk about James, he holds a bachelor degree in electrical engineering from the University of Virginia. He has worked at Microsoft Corporation for over 10 years, where he was served both in the consulting services area as well as program and product manager in the visual audio studio system. James is a co-founder of Caravel Labs along with Mr. Ashutosh Chatterjee and serves as a vice president and head of research and design. James is a prolific speaker and instructor, having spoken at multiple PMI events in Kolkata, at the Global Scrum Gathering in Shanghai, as well as at various prestigious forums, such as at the United Nations. With these few words about them, I would now request Mr. Ashutosh Chatterjee to take over the session and to enlighten us about the design thinking and innovation processes. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee, Mr. Mukhopadhyay. I'm trying to share my screen. Should I just use Zoom and just share at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please let me know if you can see this.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity and also for the very warm introduction there. Also, a big thanks to Professor Moitra for setting us up so well. I've never heard anything expressed so eloquently about design thinking and innovation in a long time and why it is so relevant. And I believe most of the folks today are attending are actually students. So I'm trying to also think of what it was like me 30 years ago when I was in final year in college, and what my priorities were, and then what I realized what life was. Because innovation and design thinking is rather like learning to ride a bike or learning how to swim. It is, we all know what the benefits are, but it is generally very hard to, if somebody was to say how to start riding a bike, it's hard to write a guidebook for that, right? So it's kind of that. So we just learn the value of it along the way, and I'm trying to see if we can kind of speak from the perspective of students who are still in college, who are requiring a lot of knowledge and skills that are necessary in order to be innovators, But at the same time, trying to understand this other very nebulous concept that we all talk about. So with that, I would really like to start with innovations. I know the session is about design thinking and innovation, but it really starts with innovation. And I'd like, while I'm speaking, I'd like us all to do one thing. In 3 words in the chat window, write down an example of the greatest innovation in the last century that you can think of. Nobody is going to be asked anything about what they wrote. This is, it's just for us later, for everybody to go back and think if our perception of innovation changed as a result of this discussion. Fair enough? So we can do this in our own time, but I'll keep going with the presentation. So innovation is actually, it's one of the most the term is so overused that it is kind of hard to remember what it actually means. We hear it every day, about innovation here, innovation there, lack of innovation, somebody innovated. So what does it actually mean? So I kind of looked up, I started by looking at the dictionary. It always helps me to go back to what is the origin of the word. And innovation is really about novelty. It's about introducing or doing something new, right? But is that a sufficient definition of innovation? I was thinking about this some more. And so here is a very innovative watering can. It's a self-watering watering can. Would you consider that innovation? I realized no, it really isn't, right? Because innovation is meant to solve a real problem. This was not a real problem. It looks interesting, it catches your eye, but it's not really particularly innovative, right? The other one I was thinking of was, a new way of adding 2 + 3, basic arithmetic. So this was, by the way, the first program that I wrote 35 years ago. When I was in high school, I stood in line in front of a BBC Micro. That was one of 2 computers that were in my high school. And somebody told me that if I write this, I will be able to add 2 + 3. I thought this was, I'll never be anywhere close to computers ever, simply because why would I do something like this? Why would I write, 5 lines of code to do something that I've been doing since kindergarten, right? So this is not innovation either. It's innovation is meant to provide a simpler solution for a complex problem, right? Not the other way around. And the last thing, I'm a big fan of Tintin, which I'm sure there's a lot of people in the audience who are. And so this is one of my favorite Tintin comics. It's about going to the moon. This was written in 1953, before anybody actually went anywhere close to the moon. But this is not innovation either. And it's simply because it is, innovation is meant to be implemented, not just imagined. So this is something that we have to remember about innovation, that it is novelty, but it is, it has to solve a real problem. It has to simplify things, and it has to be actually implemented in order for it to be innovation. Otherwise, it's just a concept. And innovation is really the process of using new ideas to solve intractable problems that cannot be solved through conformity. That's really what innovation is about. It's not about, continuing, doing the same thing in the same way, or just making it slightly more efficient. That's not what it is. It's really about hard problems. And it is, therefore, right, it is about big things achieved over time. So by now, we must have all written our ideas about innovation. But when I think of what is one of the biggest things that have happened, one of the biggest things that have happened is how the world has changed since 1965. So here is an example. I will give the reference in a second, but in 1965, this is based off World Bank data, right? This is about the fertility rate and about child mortality. So the world was very divided. You see a small percentage of people. Professor Moitra referred to this earlier about how we look at the world as developed versus developing, and we do everything that was that happened in the developed space, right? And this is a worldview of 1965. So there were a very small number of people who had small families, and few children died early, right? And there were a lot of people which had big families, and many children died, very early. And these bubbles represent the different countries and their population size. So you see China and India right here, obviously, and then there's a whole bunch of other countries. So it was in 1965, it made a lot of sense that you had the world divided this way. 50 years later, the world looks very different. Most of us are here, right? Most of most of the population, the world's population, is right here. And this is actually an example of unrelenting 50 years of innovation by by governments, by corporations, by nonprofits, by institutional investors, and all of this stuff. It is relentless. It is not dramatic. It has been happening over all of our lifetimes, but it has been going on, right? And that's what innovation is about, right? Innovation is about big things that happen over time, right? And I would strongly recommend actually reading this book, this Factfulness book by Hans Rosling, and also going to gapminder.org. They have these amazing stories about how such innovations were achieved and continue to be achieved. And really, that ability to innovate is very unique to the human species. Nobody else, no other species has the ability to innovate the way we do. And that is what allows us to dream about big things, right? That's why the UN Sustainable Development Goals are in place, right? That's why we believe that in another 9 years, we will be able to achieve, we would be able to eliminate poverty, eliminate hunger, have health for everybody, fix climate, the climate crisis. All of these things are possible because of that. And here's a quick quote by Edison, right? If we all did the things we are capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves. So one thing that I would really like to say here is, as engineers and as budding engineers and technologists, we will be able to differentiate ourselves only if we commit to a career of innovation, right? And so as you're looking for your campus interviews and getting placed and all of the things that are probably top of mind, especially if you're in the final year, at least that's what it used to be 30 years ago for me. Let us remember that we are studying technology and engineering for a purpose, and that is to be innovators. Okay. Now, having said that, innovation is not it's not a pleasant thing. Right? It is like there's a little bit of inspiration, but it takes a lot of work. I'm just going to put these two quotations from an article I read yesterday. It is chaotic. It is wasteful. It is hard. It is risky, but it is totally worth doing. So this is something, and by the way, most people will, find it too risky to actually be innovators for a very long time. But it is totally worth trying. So it would require all of those things, and it would require that commitment. And I think the one other thing is in this one, I would say, is we often think of innovation, right? When we think of innovation and the value that we put to innovation, it's about the results of innovation, right? That's why at the end of, we have news items that don't talk about how something was achieved, but we talk about, the actual result, what was accomplished, right? And I love this quote, we've come to celebrate the theater of innovation, not the workshop of it. Again, this is not meant to discourage anybody. This is just to remember that in order to celebrate the theater, right, we have to go through the workshop of innovation. So another key concept around innovation that I feel we sometimes miss is confusing technological advancement with innovation, right? So technology is about machines. So a smartphone, a bullet train, a robot, and solar energy, and think of any other technology that we can think of today. 5G, James mentioned earlier, right? The presence of 5G is not an innovation. 5G is a technological advancement. The innovation is that James is able to sit by a lake, or as Professor Moitra said, that we are able to join online meetings. Right? It is the ability to join the meetings. It is the ability to do what we do as humans. That is what innovation is, right? And so innovation, I look at it as kind of these three circles here, right? So it has to be valuable to society, usable by people, and technologically feasible, right? So this is the realm of innovation. Now, what we often do, and this is not just in the academic space, this happens all the time in real life too, that we focus on things that are valuable to society and technologically feasible, but not usable by people. That's the realm of technical POCs, right? So, oh, let's build an app, or let's solve a problem with machine learning, but we don't have data for that, right? That's a realm of technical POCs, because it's not useful, it's not usable by people. It does not, imagine if we had a bullet train that nobody could ride, or if we had a smartphone that had no apps in it, or a solar panel in the middle of a field that is not connected to a grid. That would not be innovation, right? That would be a technical POC. And the thing that I learned very early on in my college, out of college, is just because I tried something, like, I built the first, I wrote the first machine learning algorithm, which I didn't because it wasn't there at the time. But whatever it was, the first thing that I built is not necessarily a worthwhile technical POC either, right? Because there are millions of people who have already done it. And even if we are the third or the fifth person who's done it, it won't necessarily matter, right? Likewise, sometimes we think of something that is valuable to society and usable by people. That's the realm of magical thinking. That's the Tintin Destination Moon stuff, right? Nobody has actually achieved it. And the last one is we sometimes work on things that people find very attractive and that are technologically feasible, but they're not particularly valuable. And that's the realm of demos. So this is something that we must always remember and always get to the intersection of the three, which is the realm of innovation. And that leads us to design thinking. So innovation, I said earlier, is crazy and chaotic and messy and all of that stuff. So if there's a framework for innovation, how do we get to that intersection, right? The closest thing that is possible to that framework is design thinking. And for that, I'm going to turn this over to James and let him speak about it, because he does this on a regular basis. So over to you, James, and I'll drive the slides for you.
Yes, thank you, Ashu. Next, please. So when we talk about design thinking, it is the methodology. It is a approach. It is tell you how you can solve a problem from understanding what's the problem and trying to figure out what kind of possibilities might be the solution, or many solutions, right? There are no standard solutions. There are many solutions. And the process of going from what's the problem and understanding the problem and then trying to figure out solutions is design thinking. Now, when you solve a problem, it not necessarily have to be a human problem. It could be a technology problem, right? It can be, different. But when we talk about design thinking in the realm of innovation, and what Ashu mentioned earlier, innovation is about people. Therefore, if you can apply design thinking in the realm of innovation, it has to be human-centered. It has to solve a human problem, not just simply a technology problem. It has to, what the professor said earlier, help ease and improve human pains. Now, humans have different levels, lives in different societies, unfortunately, sometimes in bubbles. And when you solve problems and looking for pain points, it could be icing on the cake. Somebody's what we call the first world problems. I don't have, an armrest that feels comfortable while I'm driving in a car. That's a first world problem. And it can also look for pain points. That's kind of a saying in Chinese called like bring charcoal in a snowstorm, right? That really solves a pain that really dramatically improves someone's life. And those are the pain points that aligns with bigger innovation. So innovation itself can be mapped to small pains, big innovations, small innovations. However, it's the approach is the same. So next, what is human? We are all human. So how do you understand and how do you go from human? We go back to the fundamental philosophy questions we all think about at some point in our life, and probably throughout our lives. Who are we, or what are we, and where do we come from, or where did we come from before, and where do we want to go next? Those are the three fundamental questions. And when we look at human problems, you kind of start there. Who are these people? Where did they come from? And where are they trying to go? And when you put into kind of practice in design thinking, the map on the right side, we call humans, of course, users. but you can imply more, not just the people who use the technology. It could be the family members or brothers and sisters and siblings of the user. When they use the technology, their lives are impacted as well. So you look at the human in the middle, and then when you try to understand who are we, where we come from, and where we are going, you need to break it down into what do people say, what do people think, what do people do, and what do people feel? And overall, what is the motivation and what is the goal for people doing, saying, and feel such things? And in an ideal world, also a quote said by Gandhi that in an ideal world, the most happiness comes from when people say, what they think, and what they do is aligned. And unfortunately, in the real world, most people don't do that. And most societies feel that, that's not a very safe way to do it. So in reality, when we apply design thinking and trying to figure out what humans say, do, and think, they often are different. And it takes analysis to really understand what is the pain point they are really talking about, what they need versus what they want. So next. And then once you understand it starts with humans and what's human-centered, then what is design? The design is a process that the purpose of intention exists behind the action, fact, or material, meaning that you want to design solutions that has a purpose that maps to what people try to do with it, the action, the people try to use it for, the motivation, and then also bring in, when you do design, the three circles, right? You have the human desired, and you have what society defines as a pain point and problem, or business as a business model. And then in design, you bring in the third piece, which is technology. What's in the realm of possibility of our physical world, the technologies and materials that you can use. So in the design is bring those three areas together and trying to figure out what are the possible solutions. Next. So human-centered design is also called user experience, meaning when people use something, what is their experience? And remember always, if you don't do human-centered design, you're simply just designing an experience. The UX minus U equal to just the experience. So it's cool to have an experience of something, but if it's not applied, and I think for a lot of us, I remember coming out from college and into Microsoft, there are projects I've done that I had no users, and that was very disappointing. And I designed and worked on a solution that has, I thought, an amazing experience, and nobody cared in the world to use it. So if you want to look for self-realization and kind of value and meaning in terms, if you imply that with, you helped other people, which is ultimate happiness, you want to make sure that the solution you design, you care about the user experience, not just designing an experience and hoping that user will come in. Next. So in software development, which is a realm that Ashu and I have been working in, from Microsoft and to care about labs, there are a lot of similar principles. And I think that's why design thinking and the fashion of agile development these days go very well together. You can see on the left side, those are agile principles where it aligns within the software development team or within a solution development team that you empower the individuals and interactions. You make sure that you have a working solution. You have customers or you have people participate and collaborate. And then you respond, embrace, adapt to change. Where on the right side, you have design thinking that's, I mentioned, human-centered. The design has to be intuitive to use. You have to get everyone to participate, to give you feedback and start doing in order to think. Instead of, you learn the changes, you learn about how to solve the problem by iteratively, incrementally do it. And do more with less is also very important about when you do design thinking is you want to find the most cost-effective way to find a solution and to validate and test a solution. because innovation is expensive, right? Innovation will generate waste, and you want to minimize that waste by validating and eliminating things that do not work. But the process of getting to the solution, you cannot avoid failures and mistakes. And in fact, in order to find the solution, in order to find success, you have to go through failures and mistakes, because you learn from that to understand what's going to work next. Next slide. The same three circles: the viable idea, or the business model, so if you haven't noticed, throughout this presentation, if you get nothing from today, make sure you understand these three circles and you take these three circles into practice in your future projects. It's thinking about having a viable idea that has a business model that has a social need, and then you have easy to implement, meaning that there are technologies that can solve it. Yes, so unfortunately, not Iron Man, Marvel, scientific, sci-fi stuff yet, but it has to be real technologies existing in the world today that you can use. And then significant user base is what we encourage when you do innovation, is that you can solve, again, apply design thinking as a methodology to solve for the 0.01% population in the world, which will pay you a significant amount of money regardless. Or you can solve problems for the 99.99% population in the world, and everybody will improve together as human race. So we encourage innovation in the realm of significant population affected user base. Next. And when you apply design thinking and you come up with lists of solutions, you start with a human-centered, you start learning by making it. So getting a way, and I'll show you on the last slide, a way to immediately start by applying a way to solve a problem. And then you have people to participate into the entire process. When you have a list of things that you need to do, remember, again, three circles, but you want to do the must-haves, which is where all three circles going to meet. Now, if you have that, and you're then looking for building a business or getting investments, then maybe something you should have included is where it generates a sustainable way of revenue, which is marrying technology to business. And then if you are able to build that business and you can have money to not necessarily generate more money, but have investments that you want to keep the human impact, then you do technology and human needs, which is could have. You never want to do something that's not yet possible, right? So you won't do something that, oh, I wish, people are asking for AIs or robots that will help them do their, homework or something like that. Technology may not able to do that yet. It may even have a business value, but we don't want to, work on problems that are not realistic. Next. So I want to leave design thinking, giving you a recommended approach that's the most cost-effective in my 10 years of practice. It's called paper prototyping. And it's simple because I teach this and I use this with Fortune 500 company CIOs. I do this with migrant kids in rural China. I do this with old folks from all kinds of backgrounds, regardless of if they know how to draw or not. So like in my hand, I have these pen and have paper that have drawings on it. And this is, prototype of a piece of software we are building in Caravel Labs that helps apply all these innovation methods and design thinking and agile approach in a software development process. And all you need is pen and paper. And here's a video that will introduce you how to do it. And what you want to do is that think about the technologies that you want to build. Find a way that's cheapest to fake it so that you can show it to users, you can show it to humans so that people can give you feedback without you spending and potentially wasting a lot of resources into building it yet. Because to humans, as long as you convey the idea visually, because people are visual thinkers, they can give you feedback that you can use immediately. Okay, so let's bring in some case studies from our company, Careval Labs. So making it real. Here's a quote from a book that we are reading together in the company right now. People with new ideas to address major problems. We are relentless in pursuing the vision, and we will not take a no for an answer. So again, in the process of finding answers, you will get a lot of no's. The only thing you need is one yes. Just like many things, our jobs, our families, you only need one yes. You will not give up until we have spread our idea, which is today we are spreading our idea that innovation has to solve major problems. So next. So I'm going to present two cases. One of the very first projects that we worked on is about elderly care in India. So 1 in 7 elders in India. And when we say elders, remember, all of us will get old. So when we say elders, it's not just looking at our grandparents or our parents, but thinking about ourselves as well in long term, or not that long, 10 to 20 years. 1 in 7 elders in India face reduced healthcare access due to them living, especially in the COVID situation, not able to travel out or lockdown. Next. So the conventional view is that, hey, government should help these folks, right? Government should help everybody to solve these problems. Or help is already available. They can pick up the phone, they can use the app, they can order a taxi. And then if you follow that, it's to build more, government should build more elderly care facilities, nursing homes, or there should be a better telephone service or directory for the folks to use. However, when you interview, when you go in and talk to, again, the humans, right? Ask the elders what they think, what do they say, what do they feel, and what do they do? It's not that way, because the phones sometimes are not working for them. Many of them do not use phones, smartphones in most of their lifetime. Many of them have other disabilities, issues, which all of us may get when we get old. So it's very important to think about the complexity of human needs. So how do we elevate? How do we, from the innovator that we worked with, he asked himself, how do I elevate care coordination? How do I get care for those folks who need it, and to professionally improve healthcare access? And the folks that we worked are these folks that you see on the picture, and he built this organization called Parental Care India. So what we did with Parental Care India is, actually, if you could advance. Yeah, so what we built with kind of Parental Care India is that when in the process of design thinking and innovation, we found first for looking for the pain point. And the pain point is, how do you schedule and map all these elders, all these clients, and with their needs, with people who can provide those needs? So automated scheduler that matches that viable solution or matches what they need. It's kind of like matching the complexity of the street maps for Uber drivers to people who they need to pick up along the way. Similar approach is, how do you match people who can provide different type of care with people who need different type of care, and allow them to remotely manage healthcare, things like paying it remotely with PayPal, technologies that already exist, easy to implement, but you bring it together to innovate a new way to use them. And elders, they don't need to use and learn to use new technologies. We work with mostly their children that they contact us, or at the same time we use technology they are familiar with, giving them a phone call, do a text message. So in the realm of innovation, right, when you talk about human desirability, human needs, you don't force technology onto human, right? You find the technology that's easy to implement that the humans already able to do. So we focused on the automation of scheduler as opposed to thinking about a shiny, app that somehow we magically hope that all the elders will learn how to use. we focused on automating the scheduler and able to provide care to a large number of elders during the pandemic without increasing the tech burdens of forcing our elders to learn technology at a pace that they're not comfortable with. Okay, so that's one case study for Parental Care India. The next one I want to share is something that we're all familiar with in the realm of education. So those two, if you map back to the solving the big problem, right? So when you solve big problems, it's not just have a big solution. It's a small solution with Parental Care India where it maps to the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, where it provides Goal 3, good healthcare and well-being. It provides decent work and economic growth, Goal 8, for the caretakers that created jobs in the market. So when you talk about solving big problems like SDGs, it's really through the small solutions that each of them accumulates it. There's no some significant big solution, one solution that will do everything. Next is something that we're all familiar with, myself included. I think a lot of folks who learn to speak English as a second language were told that English provides employment opportunities. And in the world today, currently, as an international language, it does. However, in my personal experience, learning English from a textbook is very different than applying it in the world and to able to use it for persuasion, for presentation, for convey an idea, right? So the conventional way is that we're going to create jobs that don't require this English language, or provide more English medium education schools that are already available. And so you're going to create more jobs that in other languages or doesn't need humans, or build more English media schools. Now, you can do that, right? You can even apply design thinking to innovate in that sense. But remember, then you may not really improving humans' lives. You may improve machine lives. If you have more machines changing people's jobs. How do I create an English education system that's affordable for learners? So one of the things for English medium school or for one-on-one English teaching is quite expensive, especially for folks who are not able to get employment opportunities. They're trying to get employment opportunities. So, and then at the same time, teachers are the limited quantity of good people in the world, and for all the professors sitting there, exactly, like good teachers, good professors are really hard to come by. And how do we find a way to make it attractive for teachers around the world to come together to do this? So the innovators that we worked are, in this case for customer, are these two folks, one located in England and one located in India, and they create this company called Queen's English. And they provided, we work with them to build an app that allows teachers to remotely teach English from around the world. So you can have teachers from South Africa, from Europe, from America, from anywhere in the world, and they teach English to anyone else in part of the world. So you don't need people to be physically in a physical space that we traditionally now call a classroom. Now with the pandemic, classroom can be right here, where everybody's sitting from different parts of their homes or offices, or me sitting right next to a lake. So what is the innovation that we did in this project is we use mobile phones to deliver live lessons by teachers who are native speakers of English. And they are able to teach students the speaking, and then we build use speech recognition technology to provide a automated way so that the teachers need to take a break, right? Teachers can't be with you 24/7, and you have to learn by yourself as well. So this is where technology, or the AI technology now replacing teacher helps, is that when teachers take a break, students can use a technology that assists the teachers to continue teaching the students by automated practice problems and give feedback to the students to improve their pronunciation and vocabulary. And a quote from our customer when they use the solution is, do we have a quote, Ashu?
No, we don't. But
Not this one. Okay.
sorry.
All right. So there's a website you can. So for anyone who want to try out this app, they offer free trial. So go ahead and use that link, and they can download the app and then do a trial class. And if you want to see how the app works. So again, this is a very, in the realm of the world, this is providing. This is a solution classically, providing the charcoal in the snowstorm. Kind of, you're providing English teaching opportunities, which is very easily accessible to the top 0.1% of the population, but for the 99.9%, this is where this makes it more affordable. This improves the goal number 4 in United Nations for quality education and provides decent work and economic growth and opportunities for teachers in the world. Okay, I'm going to hand it back to Ashu for 2 more cases. Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, James. And I was going to say, yes, we don't. We have a lot of quotes from these customers, but I don't think the quote was necessarily that I was looking for. Was more to showcase the innovation. But here's something that I would like to share about these folks. They had this idea for a while that they wanted to do something like this innovator's view. They wanted to do something like this for a while. But the actual implementation, so the stuff that James was talking about, right, using paper prototyping and design thinking, they were able to crystallize this to something that was very achievable. When they started, they had 0 budget. They had not raised any money, literally nothing. And from there, they are now valued at £2 million because they're based in the UK. So, or Jamie is at least, and the company is. They're valued at £2 million. They have served, I think, well over 100,000 students using this app. And I just want to mention here particularly about this one, because it stands out for me, is that the value of design thinking and innovation is that you can actually, if you can actually crystallize something to that intersection of the 3 circles, you can actually achieve things amazingly fast. And in their app was built in about 3 months, and they have been in business just a little over a year. So that's how much they have achieved, and that's the speed with which they have achieved. You folks should really go, check out, I would say, not just their website, but also try to follow Jamie. He does really good posts on LinkedIn as well about what they're doing. It's really very inspiring. So with that, I'll just move on to the next one. And here was a problem that one of our customers encountered, and it's a common problem. There's a lot of these days. There's a lot of mass-produced clothing and garments and so forth. And it turns out that 40% of clothes that we buy end up in the garbage, completely unworn, brand new. And the conventional view around that, when we have this discussion, you hear that people are buying too many clothes, or garment manufacturers are not focusing on quality. I have literally sat through debate sessions, for lack of a better word, in a format that is very familiar in Calcutta and in Adda, and people actually taking these 2 sides, right? And if you just followed this conventional view, you end up with 2 absurd solutions. Why can't we use technology to discourage consumption, or why can't we just keep improving quality controls? We could, but it's not going to, neither of them is actually going to end up solving the real problem, which is the waste, right? So an innovator's view on this one, if you use design thinking, in which the specific innovators I'll talk about in a second, was they looked at it and they said, how do I improve the clothes buying experience to directly reduce waste, right? So it's focusing on the clothes buying experience, right? I'd like to say, and these 3 folks, they're based in the US, but they're really working with the rest of the world. And they basically built this company called Stylecard. And what they have is a very simple thing, right? They capture 2 photos and fit preferences, and then they basically provide recommendations based on the photos and the fit preferences to what would fit the style and preference and sizes and so forth, right? So where is the innovation in this? The innovation is using 3D modeling and machine learning. They can get 98% body measurement accuracy just with the phone, right? So there's a lot of technology involved in this. And the other one is in the body measurement user experience, right? which is the way it has been implemented. And I know this pretty intimately because we were involved in, we basically built this app for them. It's the technology already existed. It's pretty much how QR code functionality works. It takes a whole bunch of pictures and looks at the various points in it and is able to come up with the measurement, right? And I think the quote from the CEO Kyle is quite instructive in that sense. This was not easy. This is pretty hard, right? And they didn't exactly know what it would look like. So they did a little bit of prototyping, and eventually we were able to get this built. Again, this seems like if you go on their website and everything, this is looking at targeting, what James was talking about earlier, the 0.01% of the population, people who seem to be, very fashion conscious and buying clothes. But in reality, it solves huge problems, around inequalities, building sustainable cities and communities. When we reduce solid waste, it's waste that gets off our streets, right? And it is about responsible consumption and production. Another interesting thing I might just say that of all the three, and the next one that I'm sharing, none of these are actually, we have this, there's a lot of this perceptions that anything that we do with social innovation is somehow non-profit work. By the way, none of these are nonprofits. They all are there to, to make money. But in doing so, they are actually, carrying out innovation, and innovation is, and they make money and they're able to innovate only when they are actually serving a lot of people, right? So that's where I think Professor Moitra in the beginning, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, he mentioned that empathy. They're operating from empathy. So with that, I'll go to the last case that we wanted to talk about. And this is about the fact that 2 in 3 people in the world lack meaningful access to justice, right? So the conventional view, and by the way, this is not any different in India or the US or anywhere. We have the exact same issue pretty much everywhere in the world, right? So when we look at the conventional view, it's always about increasing the efficiency of the court system or increasing law enforcement to reduce pressure on courts, And so what we have is, we come up with solutions like use video conferencing for courtroom sessions. Why could we not just use, Zoom or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams or whatever we can, that kind of an idea, or let's invest in more surveillance technology. That's the conventional view. Our innovator here looked at it a little different. She looked at it as, how do I reimagine a courtroom for those who are unable to make the time or effort to get to the courtroom, right? That's what her vision was. Now, by the way, she is actually a very accomplished lawyer. She's an aviation lawyer, and she works to represent people who were involved in air crashes and so forth. And so, like with the Boeing 737 MAX in air crash. So she is helping people get. This is where her idea came from, that the empathy thing is so important there, right? That she was actually working with people in Ethiopia where the air crash happened to sue Boeing, which is sitting in Seattle. Now, these people have lost maybe multiple family members. They cannot go to Seattle to a courthouse to go and, get their justice from the court over there, where Boeing is being held accountable for that stuff. And that was kind of the inspiration, right? And so she built this company called Lightning Law. And what they're doing is they're basically creating, essentially, right? It's an integrated platform. Yes, it uses video conferencing and uses document sharing and all kinds of technologies. But the purpose is to simulate the courtroom experience. It is not like, here's some technology, let's start having online hearings. I mean, recently there was an incident I read in the paper about some celebrity trying to have a Zoom or being on a Zoom trial in the Supreme Court in India, I believe, and that getting overrun by the celebrity's fans or something, and now she's facing a contempt of court situation, right? So the courts court proceedings are very formal settings, and they're very stressful settings. Just throwing unfamiliar technology at them does not solve the problem, and she realizes that, and that's why they're working on building this. They already have the first the first prototype out there. So they're actually giving it out to users right now. A very an elderly judge who's already retired and hates technology recently used it and came back and said, yes, this is one thing I'm willing to use. So again, they're using what James was talking about. They're using design thinking. They're looking at it from the user's perspectives. They're building it for the users, and they're also testing it with the users, right? Another one I would say that we should you should check out. And of course, again, this ultimately builds peace, justice, and strong institutions. Another thing I would say about these 4 situations is that the actual technical implementation of the solutions are they happened amazingly fast. Not a single one of these, and they're all in production in the hands of real users, right? Not a single one of these innovations took more than 3 months, if you can believe that. And not a single one of these required a team that was larger than 6 engineers. I mean, just to demonstrate how innovation actually happens when you're using design thinking, it shrinks huge problems into something that are really small and therefore achievable. That's the whole point about innovation and design thinking, right? Now, coming back to where do we find innovators? So this is all great. Where do we find innovators? Now, in our experience, innovators are always a minority, but they're everywhere. We have found them in, we have, as the founders of Caravel Labs, we've worked in 24 countries on every continent, and we have found them everywhere. And you will find them amongst startup founders. You'll find them amongst, social entrepreneurs, amongst NGOs, international aid organizations. Sometimes we say that, oh, you will not find innovation in the government. No, actually, the government provides some of the best innovation in the world, including governments that we sometimes think are, not particularly innovative. They're not known for innovation, but they're actually doing amazing innovative work. I mean, we just have to look around. I think we are all a little skeptical about our own governments. But if we just look around, we will be amazed to see how much innovation is actually happening there. We just don't notice it, because that's the thing about innovation, right? It is not dramatic until the big result shows up. Same thing with corporations. There are plenty of corporate executives. I mean, James and I worked in Microsoft. I worked there for 14 years. Lots of amazing innovators in that space. That's why these companies do so well. So you will find innovators everywhere. It's just that you can tell them from their eagerness to act for change. I think that's a big difference between innovators and non-innovators. Like, everybody wants change, but it's really about being ready to act for change. And it's not easy to do that in many of these settings. Especially, I can absolutely say from my own experience as a corporate executive for a very long time, or working with many government customers, it's not easy to do that, because these institutions have a lot of things to protect. So causing disruption is really not particularly encouraged. But even within them, right, the people so everybody wants change, everybody talks about change. It is the people who choose to act to change. And design thinking is one of those things that allows us to get to that, that small solution that needs implementation, right? Something that you can build really fast with very little budget, and people are willing to sign up for it. And when they see the results, they come back for more, right? That's really what innovation at the end of the day is about. So in closing, I really want to quickly talk about us as Caravel Labs. So here's the 5 of us. We've worked with, as I was saying earlier, a long time with innovators around the world. I think it was mentioned in the introductions. We had built a practice around the world that was really about enabling innovators, and that's what gave us the desire to build a company around this, right? And so we're founded by Microsoft alumni, and it's a very diverse team, because we focus on innovation and innovators only. We do not take just any work, like whatever business process that needs to be automated, right? Because we're focused very, very much on this. We are able to build a team and a community that is about global citizens. And I think one of the things that we do, we really value, is making sure that everybody receives equitable compensation. And by the way, innovators actually get paid a lot more than simple technicians around the world. That is just a fact of life, right? And that's why you see, there are so many Silicon Valley billionaires and so forth. I'm not saying that everybody who's in Caravel Labs is already a billionaire by any means, but you get the point. There's no concept of cheap labor or anything of that kind. So we are already in several places. You see, Seattle and Washington D.C. and Puerto Rico and in Calcutta, but we will be going to other places as well, right? So what do? We build all kinds of applications with all kinds of amazing technology, and we also make software engineering better through what we do. It should not be any surprise to you, considering our Microsoft background, that we're big on Microsoft technology, and we have very strong Kolkata connections, at least, if not all of West Bengal. So I started, even though I grew up in UP and went to college in Odisha, I started my career in Calcutta. All the founders have been there. I think our connection to Calcutta or Kolkata is not so much about the work that we have done there. It is that we actually feel it is very much a hub for innovators. Everywhere we go, we find innovators of all kinds, right? And as a matter of fact, we have found 2 innovators who chose to join us. They are actually graduates of your university from an affiliated college, IEM, and they went through an internship with us last year, right, James? By the way, that the Queen's English app that was built was actually these 2 people participated in doing that and building it, and they're still keeping that up and running and going. So we have a strong Kolkata connection, right? And the problems that we are looking ahead at the moment, and we're looking to solve really hard, are at least these are the 3 that we are focusing on, right? So why do 1 in 2 people on the planet lack healthcare access, and what can we do about it? Why do 1 in 5 children aged 6 to 17 are without learning access, and what can we do about this? And why do 1 in 4 persons on the planet live in slums? These are things that we believe can be solved through design thinking and innovation and technology. And this is what we're working on. So I'd just like to end this by a quote or a poem by Tagore. I think Tagore needs no introduction to us, right? And I'm not going to read this either, but I particularly like this one because this actually captures the motivation for innovation, right? It is about humanity and the power of humanity. And why I find this particularly important is that Tagore wrote this. It's a very popular Rabindra Sangeet, of course. We all hear it on his birthday. But it was written when he was mortally ill, and the world that he believed in was lying in shambles in the midst of World War II. And he still believed that humanity will be victorious. And that, I think, is the motivation of all innovators, no matter what we do and why we do it. Yes, we all want to make money, but that's what we are doing this for, right? This is what our life is supposed to be about. It's not just about making money. Everybody will find a way to do that, right? That's what it is all about, and that's where I would leave it. And I'm sure amongst you there are a lot of innovators, if not all of you. I think everybody wants to be one. And if you're looking for ways, to innovate the world, we would love to hear from you. So, please follow us on LinkedIn if you like, and there'll be more opportunities. As a matter of fact, I'm looking forward to more opportunities to work with the team that you have there. It's really amazing, and the stuff that you're doing over there is fantastic. And anything that we can do to help you with your mission would be just as valuable for us. So thank you, and I guess I'll hand this back over to the facilitators.
Thank you, sir. Pradeep, sir.
You can stop sharing the screen, please.
I just did.
And Professor Indranil Mukherjee, you are there. I don't see any questions have been raised by our
Mr. Mukhopadhyay, I must say that I have been moved by what Mr. Ashutosh Chatterjee said. Yes, we were following with all keenness his presentation on innovation and design thinking. But the way he wrapped it up bringing forward the notion of empathy, which our Honorable Vice Chancellor sir said at the beginning. He had set the tune. And then Mr. Chatterjee came up with this wonderful poem of Tagore. And he ended on a note which had filled us with great hopes. We know that there are problems abounding around us. I'll not take individual problems, but innovation and design thinking can become the great pillars of hope, as Mr. Chatterjee has outlined. Thank you, sir, for sharing this with us. We, on behalf of MAKAUT, do value this deeply, sir. Now, let me go back to my senior colleague, Mr. Pradeep Mukhopadhyay, sir.
Thank you, Professor Mukherjee. I just thought of asking one thing, while you have been, am I audible properly?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
So I was just going through few of the used cases you have been projecting. There you have shown conventional view as well as innovator's view. Now, what happens, some cases while you had projecting conventional views, it was coming to my mind, okay, oh, that's a good solution. But when you are talking about innovator's view, then it seems more better. Now, how do you define that, yes, this is the thing which we should go for prototyping and trial? See, how do we, figure out that, no, this is not enough. We should go out of box from there and something, more innovative in nature.
I can try to answer that question. I think so. There is no one way of achieving that. The one of the problems with intractable problems or wicked problems is that they have many solutions, all of which are valid, none of which are wrong. They are good or bad solutions, but we won't know until we have actually tried this out. And I think that's the risk with innovation, right? All the solutions are valid. How do you know exactly, as you said, which of these really makes sense? And design thinking, that getting to the ability to look at things from those three circles and being able to see which of the solutions fit in the, closest to the intersection, right? Design thinking gives us that ability to shortlist the solutions and look for something out of the box. So even though we say out of the box, it's kind of funny because it is mostly in the box, like it's at the center of those three circles where the most innovation happens. So I think that's the value of design thinking. It reduces the chances of us chasing wrong solutions, or I shouldn't say wrong, but less optimal solutions or less innovative solutions.
Thank you. Thanks. And you have your presence in Kolkata, and I understand that few students from University of Engineering and Management or the Institute of Engineering and Management under affiliated college of University of MAKAUT has been your interns, and now they are an employee of your Caravel lab. I was wondering that how these two organizations, our university and Caravel Lab, can do collaborate. What are the forms? If you can think about something, we will also think about something so that we can join our hands in bringing out more talents, more innovations from from our institute. Which will be more beneficial to both the entities.
Absolutely. I think we have a shared mission, right? We are building the generation for the future that can continue to innovate.
Absolutely.
So we can absolutely do that.
Okay. Any other, Dr. Devasis, any questions, any clarifications from strategy? And
I think we can ask the questions. If any participant want to ask the question, they can write in the chat box.
At present, I don't see any questions are there.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe.
I have a very interesting observation that you have shown some that mostly we are going for online purchase, right, nowadays. So especially the dress purchases are horrible, at least especially the size and and the matching is a very difficult problem, and it is also a very critical innovation I've seen in your thinking. But how much is the success rate and how actually you judge it? It's very difficult to, and this is a very common problem, and that is the reason we have a return policy. The companies like Amazon and Flipkart gives us 10 days return policy. So we map it, then return it.
Yeah.
So what is your comments on it? Generally we basically we wear it, then we throw it.
Exactly. And that is exactly, so again, I'm not the one who came up with this idea, even though I'm taking credit for, we are taking credit for it, right? These are the actual innovators. But the story that they told was exactly that, right? So we buy stuff and we return them, right?
Yes.
And then it ends up in the garbage. Very rarely do we throw things away. I mean, I've got a lot of clothes that I don't wear, but they're still sitting here. But most of the time, it is the returns that is causing the waste. And so it is very easy to measure. They can measure the drop in the returns, right?
Yes.
So what they're hoping, and that's how they're measuring it too, is like how much of the, how are they going to bring down the percentage of returned orders and that's how they're pitching this to the fashion designers and the sellers, the retailers, that, hey, this is going to bring you measurable decrease in the returns. So for them, it is less waste, it is less overhead on the supply chain, it is more profitability.
Yes.
So that is exactly the problem they're solving for the suppliers.
Okay, great. And another thing we have observed that after buying, that you can see whether there is a dress, say my shirt is 32 or 34. If generally it is available in 32 or 34, nothing is 33. So are you providing any solution for 33 people?
So I think this is for those folks to answer. But here's the thing, right? Sizes are very, very hard to tell. Exactly for that reason, right? What is 32? I run into the same problem, right? I'm in the middle, and it's hard to get. And instead of using your judgment as to what your size is, right? They're actually using technology to come up with the exact size. And sizes are, by the way, what I learned from working with these folks is it's very different, right? So people have different shoulders, people have different, waist sizes, and all of those are different. So just because I have broad shoulders does not mean that I would be able to get one size that works very accurately, right? And that's the problem with mass-produced clothes. I often buy stuff, my waist is a little larger than my shoulder, so I will end up buying clothes that don't fit very well. Some other people might look like, they have a broader shoulder than the waist, and still the clothes don't fit. So it's things like that they're able to eliminate. They're able to actually allow for customized creation of clothes for you on order, right? You extend this, and I don't know if they're planning to do that, but just extend this innovation now and add 3D printing to this, right? So imagine once you're able to capture the exact size, can we just switch to custom producing your garment for you so that there's no waste? It is built exactly to your size. So
do you patent this product, means whatever you are developing?
We don't. This is our customers. We built it for them. We built the app for them, but I'm sure they are getting the patents. Yes. Another thing about innovation is, and with many of these problems, so all of these solutions are unique solutions, right? They are not. So one of the things with innovative solutions and what we see in the social innovation space, and partly that is the reason why I've stayed so much in the custom development space, is every solution is unique. So yeah, we can actually go and patent a lot of things, but their applicability for unique solutions is generally not that wide, right? It's about building a tool specifically for a problem. But I'm sure there's patentable technology coming out of this that Stylecard has already patented probably.
Thank you.
Well, if there is no other questions, then I would request Dr. Debashish to kindly, deliver the vote of thanks to our speakers.
Yes, Thank you, Pradeep sir. And it is a wonderful Saturday evening. We have enjoyed a lot, and we got various ideas on design thinking. And yes, you have mentioned a very important line. Eagerness is very important. If you want to learn, you need to design something. Eagerness is very important. And act for change. Act for change. That is another takeaway from today's deliberation, that change for betterness, change for good for the society. And you have shown some of the landmarks for sustainable growth, right? So I believe that the talk delivered by James Liao and by Mr. Ashutosh Chatterjee will help all the participants, those who are present here today. I like to also thank Pradeep sir for organizing this wonderful event under the IIC umbrella. And I will also like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor sir, Professor Shoikat Maitra, who is always encouraging us to this kind of event, and I think we'll grow better and better in future with your guidance. And especially I like to thank our Professor Indranil Mukherjee, who is a good speaker, great speaker, and he always encourage us with his very interesting thoughts. I hope that this today's design and thinking workshop or other meeting will be successful, will encourage all of us to better in future. And last, I'd like to thank our backend team, our social media team, also Prem Kumar, those who are organizing this event successfully. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Pradeep sir, yes.
Sir, please unmute. Sir.
With the permission of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, we are concluding today's event. And once again, thanks everybody for joining, and specifically to our Vice Chancellor sir and the guest speakers. Thank you all. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you. I hope that we'll again collaborate, as Pradeep sir mentioned. We'll collaborate with Ashutosh sir and his team in future.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that. Thank you so much.